What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? This is going to be your review reaction to Surviving R. Kelly: The Reckoning, Season 2, Part 3. So, what was it, Part 4? Part 4. So, once again, I'm going to say that Lifetime, you could have taken Part 3, put it with Part 4, and made one part because, again, there was a lot in this that I felt like was filler information stuff that we've already sort of we saw in the last documentary. And I understand that you can't assume that everybody saw everything from the last documentary, but anyway, neither here nor there. I'm gonna go through this really quickly. We got a follow up to Dominique Garner. If you did see the last documentary, you know Dominique was the one whose mother rescued her on camera. And we got to find out what life has been like for her after she left. And so what we find out, which actually I'd actually read an article, so I kind of already knew all of this, but it was still good to see her tell her story and get it from her point of view. She said that she went home and she actually ended up going back to R. Kelly. They went back to Chicago. R. Kelly called her. He wanted her to come back, and she went back. And she said, you know, part of the reason why she went back is because she loved him. I mean, she still loved him. The other part of the reason why she went back is because she felt like she did not leave on her own terms. That she did not, that she was sort of, that she was taken and not, I'm ready to go. And so I think she wanted to see if she was strong enough to do it on her own, I feel like. But she said that when she first went back, he was very nice. There were no consequences. And she was kind of like, oh, who is this dude? Because this ain't the dude I've been dealing with for the last 9 years. You know, I'm not going to get beaten. I'm not going to, you know, for what I did. I've done less and gotten beat up, you know. But he was like, no, I'm just glad to have you back, blah, blah, blah. So her brother was graduating, and she had promised her brother she would go to his graduation. And so when she asked R. Kelly if she could go to the graduation, he told her no. And she said that was it for her. That was her breaking point, because she said, you know, I had missed so many celebrations, so many family gatherings. I had missed so much that I did not want to disappoint my brother, and I didn't want to miss it. And for him to tell me I could not go, she said that was it. And she ended up catching a cab to her mom's house, back to her mother's house, and she's been back ever since. It seems like she is getting therapy, which, thank God. They did mention that she had substance abuse issues, alcohol issues, that she drank a lot. She took pills. She couldn't sleep at night. There was a lot of anxiety. They did talk about the abuse. She was sort of rambunctious and would buck him. And so she would be punished a lot, and her punishment would be more severe. We've heard before about them starving them and not allowing them to eat. If you saw in the documentary, you saw how small she was when her mom came and got her. And she didn't even weigh 100 pounds. She didn't even weigh 100 pounds. She explained about her hair. She said that R. Kelly, you know, she had long hair. She said that R. Kelly one of the things he would do when they would fight was that he would pull her hair. He would pull her hair out in clumps. And so, you know, then he told her, well, I think you would look nice with short hair. And so that's how she ended up cutting her hair. They did ask her about the story that they had been told that he wanted her to look like a boy, and that he was sort of turning her into a boy. And she said, I don't want to talk about that. So she didn't really address that. But again, you could see it when they picked her up. I mean, even in the pictures, you know, Jocelyn and Azriel always look very polished and very feminine. And, you know, Dominique always looked like a boy to me. And even when her mother picked her up, she had on boy underwear, you know. So she ain't speak on it, but she talked about that she felt bad leaving Joycelyn. She said her and Joycelyn were like sisters. She said even though we were competing for R. Kelly's attention, we were like sisters, and we looked out for each other like sisters, because we knew we were all in the same boat as far as the abuse is concerned. We all dealt with the same thing with the abuse and stuff like that. they got into the interview with Gayle King and how he had his little meltdown. And what a lot of the women that they spoke to in this particular episode said, they were like, that's the R. Kelly we know. One girl said that when she heard him yelling, she had to turn the TV off because it automatically took her back to when he would yell at her. Another one of the girls was saying that she just was crying. Like the minute she said she just was crying because, again, she said that once he turned on me, she said, and it, just like you saw in the interview, one minute he was nice and calm and sweet, and then he went straight into the tirade and went straight into they're trying to get me, they're trying to ruin my life, they're out to get me. So they did talk about that. They talked about Azriel and Jocelyn, and they used the term Stockholm Syndrome and things like that. And they asked Dominique, well, what advice or what would you want to say to Jocelyn? And she said, there's nothing I can say to them because there was nothing anybody could say to me. They're just going to have to figure it out on their own and get to their own breaking point. They talked about how he makes them sign these letters and sign these things, basically sort of like, I guess, his insurance policy for when they leave or if they leave. And it's things like with Dominique, he made Dominique sign a letter saying that her mother abused her. We know that there's documents from the Savages saying that the father molested Azriel. Was it Joycelyn? I forget whose parent is whose. But a lot of the women said the same thing, that he would make me send a text message saying all these crazy things that weren't true. The young lady from the courthouse said that he had her sign off on all these documents, and he told her not to date him. And she said, I dated him. She said, at first I didn't want to sign them because they weren't true. And he said, well, if it's not true, what's the big deal with you signing them? So she said she signed them, and he said, well, don't date them. She said, but I dated all of them. So I don't know. I guess it's sort of like to discredit the family, or to discredit, like they're doing with Azriel's parents, to basically say that, it's just a money grab. They're just out to get money. My dad molested me. All of these things. My mom abused me, that kind of thing. So they talked about that. They talked about the comedy piece of it, which I think, just like I think most of America is guilty, well, Black America, I'll say, is guilty of knowing that the tape existed and probably even saw the tape at some point if you were of a certain age. We're all guilty of laughing at an R. Kelly joke. But again, when it's in the context of we're laughing at these girls' pain, so they got into that, and exploring, the different comedians, the different jokes that have been made over the years. And then we started seeing them talking to the parents a little bit more in reference to what they've been dealing with, and the lawyer with that. So again, this one isn't that long because, again, I just feel like it was a lot of filler in this particular episode. The biggest part of this episode was that we did get to see Dominique, and we did get to hear her story from her, out of her mouth. And I still feel like a lot isn't being told, which is fine, because I don't feel like we need every play-by-play. I think what's important is to know that she said she stayed because she loved him, but she definitely was abused. She was underage when she met him. I think she was 15 when she met him, and she met him, well, we learned that in the last documentary that the other young lady brought her in, which again we saw in part 1 and part 2, where he uses the girls to recruit other girls. Yeah, so how many parts is this thing? Is it 5 parts? Because I have one more part that's taped, but I don't know how much more of this I could do. It's a lot. It's sad. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments. Peace.